Peace. What's happening, good people? This gift here for Payusnomind, and let's talk about DistroKid's new partnership with the video game platform Roblox. Now, this partnership allows DistroKid to provide music to Roblox for its developers to use in their video games. Now, this is a smart move. I can't front on that. It's a smart move because this is the future. My kids, when I catch them listening to music and I check the playlist that they're listening to, they're not streaming music that they discovered on Spotify or Apple Music or anything to that effect. They are streaming music from the Spider-Man video game they play, or Minecraft, or Fortnite, or something like that. One of these video games, the music that they discovered in there is the music that they're streaming. So this is the future. But the issue here is how DistroKid is going about it. The first thing is artists don't get paid. And not only do you not get paid, but they also do not want artists who have associations or affiliations with ASCAP, BMI, things of that nature. So no PRO affiliation. And you cannot have anybody else that owns rights to the music with any PRO affiliation. So they effectively want you independent and I would say vulnerable, where you got nobody to advocate on your behalf and you're just like left out in the cold to fend for yourself. Now, before we dive into the aspect of monetization and getting paid and things of that nature, I want to talk about just the aspect of discovery and whether it's legitimate discovery, because that is like the main motivating factor with this, to say, okay, well, I'm going to have my music added to Roblox library and I could get my music used in the video game. And then, people will discover my music from this video game. But your music isn't being pitched to developers. DistroKid nor Roblox are creating an infrastructure where they're like, hey, we're gonna take music from DistroKid's library. We're gonna reach out to particular developers and say, hey, why don't you use this song? That's not what's happening. What's happening here is no different than you supplying music to Spotify or Apple Music or any of these platforms where you effectively have to promote your music there in order for anybody to know it's there, where you're running Facebook ads and Instagram ads and stuff like that to bring attention to it. Because if you don't bring attention to it, nobody knows it's there and you don't benefit from having it there. So this is the same thing. Your music gets added to effectively a database of music that developers can sort through for usage in their video games. Now, that brings us to the aspect of monetization, because the odds on a developer sitting down and sorting through all of these songs within that database to find something worth using aren't high. The reality is that developers will discover music elsewhere and go into that library to see if that music is available there. And if developers discover that music elsewhere, that means that music has value to that developer and they should pay for it. But now they wouldn't have to, because they could go to that database and use it for free. So now you miss an opportunity to get paid. And what this reminds me of is kind of like, and I don't know if people still do this, but back in the days when there were showcases and stuff like that going on, and you had people trying to charge the artist to perform, and it was all about the artist getting exposure. Oh, you're gonna get exposure. You're gonna perform and you're gonna be seen by all of these other people that come to the show. But the reality of the situation was that there was nobody at the show if the artist didn't bring people to the show. So you had one artist and all of his friends and family that he brought with him to the show. And then you had another artist and all of his friends and family that he brought with him to the show. So it wasn't really so much an opportunity for exposure like that, because you were performing for the people who already knew you, and you were paying for it. And this kind of reminds me of that. It's the same thing of paying to perform. It's the same thing where you got like online magazines that want to charge artists to appear on their magazines. It's the same thing as people who got playlists want to charge artists to put their song on their playlist. It's in the same vein of that. Everybody is saying the same thing to the artist: exposure. We're going to help you get exposed. Don't you want your music exposed? And the reality of the situation is, a lot of times, it's not exposure. It's just the possibility of exposure, where it's like my music is in a place where it could be discovered, but I'm not being guaranteed any kind of discovery. You're not saying I'm going to put this in front of people and get their attention and appeal to them on why they should use it or anything to that. That's not happening. That's not happening here. So you think about it and you say, okay, you look at the monetary aspect and not getting paid. And that brings me to the point of digital distribution and how digital distributors are not on the side of artists. Digital distributors run a business that is dependent on being able to distribute music to these outlets. So DistroKid isn't going to come to Roblox and try to make a deal that benefits artists to a great effect. What DistroKid wants is to add an asset that it feels would attract artists to use it, where they could go through the stores and they could see, oh, Roblox, they get your music in Roblox, and then people would distribute their music to DistroKid because they could get their music in Roblox, and that's what the goal is. It ain't so much to get you paid. Now, I don't know if you know, but when it comes to these agreements with these DSPs, these digital service providers like Spotify, Apple Music, etc., these digital distributors have to negotiate deals with these companies on what they're going to accept as far as payment. And for a lot of them, they fly under the license agreements of entities like Merlin and things of that nature. But we don't know whether they negotiate independently or when they do and what the particulars of the deals are. Like, those are things that we aren't privy to. But what we do know is that those deals are negotiated. And the reality of the situation is digital distributors are not in a position of power to negotiate anything because they are dependent on the platforms to run their business. If DistroKid, TuneCore, CD Baby, any of these companies cannot distribute your music to these platforms, what's the point of using them? So even when Spotify came out and was like, hey, we're going to charge artists, right, about $3 per song in order to have their music on our platform. When they came out with that rule, which was this 1,000 stream monetization rule, the distributors couldn't be like, oh, okay, well, we're going to boycott Spotify, because that's what most artists are signing up to get their music into. So if they boycott, then what of their service? They have no service. So we can't expect DistroKid to be like, hey, we're going to try to fight for the best deal with Roblox. No, they're not. They're just going to be like, oh, you want to allow us to get artist music within Roblox? Great. Hey, it's in Roblox. And it becomes the artist's responsibility to demand that Roblox pays. So, we can't, DistroKid, they're a company that, they charge a little bit of money for unlimited distribution. They have a whole bunch of artists using it, so they always looking for ways to try to make money, ways to try to get more artists to sign up and spend money, so they are what they are. We know what they are, and they are what they are. But we can only blame them but so much, right? For me, this falls more on Roblox and them trying to kind of skirt the rules and find ways to use music without paying. Because it's like that thing with the whole ASCAP and BMI and PRO, is like, that's Roblox. That's coming from Roblox end. I almost can guarantee you that's coming from Roblox end. And that is effectively like a scab. You know how people have like these strikes, and you have people in the unions who say, hey, we're not going to work unless you give us paid leave and medical benefits and stuff like that. And if people don't want to give the people in the union those benefits and stuff like that, they will hire anybody off of the street to replace them and be like, hey, we don't need you. Look, these other guys are desperate for work. They're thirsty to work, right? They'll take even half of what you were getting paid, you know? And you need laws and rules and stuff like that to prevent that from happening. And really, unions have to take some action. And you know, historically, they've taken some aggressive actions to prevent that from happening. And that is where we find ourselves as an artist community, where these platforms are effectively trying to pick us off. It's divide and conquer, separate us from these entities that are here to fight on our behalf, the PROs, the mechanical licensing collectives, the sound exchange, and even the record companies. Even though we got our gripes with the record companies, they are here, or they have a big incentive to fight for the rights of artists because they represent the catalogs of artists. And a lot of us benefit from the deals that they get with these service providers. So I would say for artists, man, you know, you have to stand up for something at some point and not allow the abuse. Because what DistroKid and Roblox and a lot of different platforms are effectively saying is, you guys are bums. You know, you're thirsty and fiending for attention, and we'll give you not attention, but the opportunity for attention. And you'll accept it because you're thirsty. And if artists continue to accept it, it's only going to get worse. So the reality of the situation is, I would reject this. I would not participate in this program. And if you are rather a DistroKid user, you should be demanding that they dead this partnership. And people should basically be like, hey man, we're going to start removing we're going to start canceling our subscription if DistroKid doesn't remove or put an end to this partnership, because it got to stop. You know, we can't continue to allow the degradation of the value of music, and not just from established artists, but from all artists. Because if you're making music, your music has value. If people want to listen to it, and if people feel like it's good enough to use in a video game, they should pay you for it. Now, as always, you guys can agree to disagree or agree, whatever the case may be. Share your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. As always, we got links to products and services and discounts in the description box. Y'all can hit me up at Payusnomind on Instagram, at Payusnomind on Twitter, payusnomind@gmail.com. This is Gift signing off. Payusnomind. Peace, good people. One.